Hey, Guns and Games here. Coming back today with another video. Today I'm going to be covering the Cold War handguns of Yugoslavia. The ones made by the Zastava factory from 1957 to basically the breakup of the country during the Balkan Wars in the 90s. And actually even a little bit afterwards. But before we get to that, we have to cover the context in the background before 1957 and what Yugoslavia was using before that. So before and then during World War I, Yugoslavia, or what was Yugoslavia, was part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. So they would have been using things like the Roth Krinka 1907, the Steyr-Hahn 1912, the Frommerstopp, the Steyr Piper 1908, 1909, things like that. After World War I, they also adopted the Ruby pistol, probably Spanish-made ones, not actual French ones, the ones that were made specifically for them by Spain. They also adopted the FN 1910/22, and they also bought a large number of Mauser C96s. So that's what they would have probably mostly had on hand during World War II, specifically when they got invaded by Germany and her allies in April of 1941. Like I mentioned in my previous Yugoslavian Mauser video, Yugoslavia waged arguably the most effective partisan campaign against Germany during World War II, and they caught a large number of German sidearms and small arms like the K98K, but they mainly, when it comes to sidearms, caught a large number of Lugers and Walther P38s as well, and used them during the war and long after. That's all well and good, but eventually, all of those guns start to wear and break down, and you're not getting any production, and you're having to buy guns from other countries. So again, they decided to, like when they made their own rifles, they would make their own handguns finally. They didn't make any of their own handguns during the interwar period. They made their own rifles, but they didn't make their own handguns. But they finally got around to making their own handguns really late in 1957. And that was this one, the Zastava M57. If you are familiar with this type of firearm, you know it is essentially a Tokarev copy. Not quite a copy, but it is very, very similar. I've actually got one here as well. This is a Romanian TTC, which is 100% identical to a Soviet one, except for this manual thumb safety. Because of our import laws in this country, all handguns that get imported have to have a safety on them. So this safety is kind of hastily and crudely put on the gun to make it legal. This was not originally on the gun. The Tokarev never had a safety. At least the Soviet ones didn't. So this is a Romanian one again, made in 1953. Got it a couple of years ago for like $270. Came with a holster and 2 mags and a cleaning rod and whatnot. In really good shape. So this gun, the Zastava one, is pretty much the same, but it is a little bit longer in the grip. As you can maybe see there, it's a little bit longer in the grip. It's about maybe half an inch longer. This is obviously chambered in 7.62 by 25 Tokarev. This is as well, but it's 8 rounds versus 9. That extra grip length gives it an extra round capacity. So 9 rounds. The grip itself is also a little thinner. So, other than that, there's also the mag release is a little bit different. Markings are obviously going to be different. That's about it, really. Magazines are not interchangeable. This mag, standard Tokarev mag, is too thick because again, the grip is thinner and these magazines are too thin. So magazines are not interchangeable, sadly. So this is an original M57. Show you right up. These are actually still in production to this day. All of these Zastava handguns that I'm going to be showing are still made to this day, actually. So this gun went out of frontline service, though, in the early 90s. So it caught a little bit of the Balkan Wars in the 90s, but they phased them out in favor of some of these others. Let me flip it over. Very nice. Based off of the serial number and some of the like the grips and whatnot, this is probably a 1960s production, based off of the batch that it came in. I got this gun off of Classic Firearms a couple of years ago for $219.99. I believe they still have them in stock. Maybe, I'm not sure. But yeah, it came with you know, like a holster and a cleaning rod and like 2 magazines for $219.99. And this gun is in beautiful shape. So, but that's really about it. There was a second version of this gun that was introduced a little bit later. That was the M57A. The only difference between the two is the A had an actual safety. So it had either a frame-mounted safety or a slide-mounted safety. These were for police, basically. So they would mount a safety on it for the police and military. And then the civilian export model would get the slide-mounted safety. So this gun does have a safety. Again, this gun was imported. And because of the import laws, it does have to have a safety. It actually has a trigger safety. Kind of a Glock-style trigger safety. It's pretty nice. It doesn't actually damage the aesthetic of the gun like this thing. Although the other 2 safeties that these have had, you know, don't look bad. But it's kind of cool. And it fits more of that actual original Tokarev aesthetic. It's a real nice way to get around that import law. Very nice. The A models also not only would have had a safety, they would have also had a magazine disconnect safety, meaning when the magazine is not in the gun cannot fire. So if the magazine is disconnected and there is a round in the chamber, it will not fire. So other than that, that's about it. Pretty much identical. I mean, the Tokarev itself is a copy, not quite a copy, but a pretty close rendition of the Colt and FN 1903. And the Tokarev caliber itself is a copy of 7.63 by 25 Mauser, which is the caliber the C96 Mauser fired. So, but this thing had a pretty decent service life. You know, early 90s, these were kind of dropped. But so after that, they would also introduce this. This is the M70, adopted, of course, in 1970. This is basically the same gun, except it's in a different caliber. This is a 9mm. That is the only difference, basically. And all of the same changes apply. There was also an A version of this one as well that had a safety. This is actually what the frame-mounted safety looks like. As you can see, down is fire, up is safe. So this is actually specifically a police or military version as well. This particular one was made in 1984. So because it has the beaver tail safety, this means it's a police or military model. It was also never refinished or refurbished, so it's still in the original finish. It's a lot rougher looking. You know, it is a lot more worn and a lot more rough. The trigger is garbage. This thing has a terrible trigger. It's the same capacity, 9 rounds, but it's in 9mm. It's the exact same gun. So I'll just show you some of the markings. A little bit different. Zavodi Krinva, Zastava, Kragujevac, Yugoslavia. Flip it over. You've got the new kind of grips that were adopted a little bit later in like the 80s and the 90s. So there it is. Pretty cool. This is an M70A, so it does have the safety. Again, the original M70, no safety at all. So the A model started being introduced in the 80s. The A model of this was about the same time, like 80s as well. So, but that's it. Yeah, that's the only difference. Because it is an A model, it does have a magazine disconnect. The grip, the magazine's a little bit different. 9mm is a much shorter cartridge, so the mags are even shorter as well. So, and then I'll actually get the original Tokarev magazine out. As you can see, a little bit longer for that one extra capacity. Just a tad bit longer. So, but again, the M70 as well is also still in production to this day as well. So, and as far as I know, these are not in service anymore either. These are basically out of service as well for the most part. So, kind of sad. But yeah, they're Yugoslavia and by effect Serbia is basically the only country in the world that still makes the Tokarev. China, Soviet Union, Romania, Poland, Hungary, Egypt, all have made it, and they don't anymore. So, at the same time in 1970, though, they also made this. Let me get the M70 back. This is the CZ M70, and it's a baby. It's a baby version. It is very much still just a Tokarev, but just a lot smaller. We are going down from the standard 4.5-inch barrel down to something a little bit over 3, like 3 1/4 maybe. And we're scaling down to 32 ACP with this gun. So 7.65. 32 ACP. It's only 8 rounds now too, not 9. But it's the same gun. It's same action. It's just a shorter, more compact version. There are a few changes, like kind of the change, in the design here. The grips are different. We also have a new safety. This frame-mounted one that's just a toggle. Forward is fire. Back is safe. It does have a magazine disconnect safety again as well. So this was actually intended to be a police pistol, basically. So, but it then also was used by like officers, and it was also used in the military as a backup gun as well, and as a training pistol too. They're still made to this day as well, but they are effectively all but out of service as well, basically. And this gun is actually pretty popular in Serbia and some of the other former countries on the civilian, and I guess you could maybe say the illegal black market, for criminals and whatnot to use, and civilians that can use them in the sort of limited, I guess, gun rights situation. Pretty popular gun over there. I've read and have been told. So interesting. Still made, not really used by any military or anything anymore. I got both of these off of Classic Firearms as well. I paid again about $219 for this too. Didn't come with a holster or an extra magazine or anything. That was it. This did. It came with also an original holster and an original cleaning rod. Not really a cleaning rod, a cleaning brush, I guess. A pretty nice brush. I use it to clean a lot of my other guns, actually. And again, I'll just show you the original cleaning rod and holster that the M57, that one, that it also came with as well. Two magazines as well. They were both the M57, wrong gun, the M57 and this gun were both completely caked and covered in cosmoline. And they were kind of a real pain to clean fully. This one did not, but yeah. I think I paid $249 for this, I believe. AIM Surplus also sells these as well. So, but that's about it. I mean, it's not in service anymore either. Again, 8 rounds, 32 ACP. Neat little package, neat little gun as well. A little baby Tokarev. Pretty cool. Let me get all this out of the way. And then last but not least, we have this. The M88. So as you can guess, in 1988, this was adopted. And it was kind of the mother of all handguns here. It was really intended to replace all of the others. Tokarev had kind of fallen out of popularity at this point. 9mm was, kind of the universal handgun cartridge of the world at this point. But this gun is basically another kind of compact version, but not quite all the way as the CZ M70. But it's a little bit smaller. Again, we're a little bit more compact. We're looking at probably about a 4-inch barrel instead of a 4.6 here on the standard Tokarevs. So a little bit shorter, grip's a little bit shorter as well. But other than that, just a slightly shorter grip, shorter barrel, it's the same gun. Because of the shorter grip, it is only 8 rounds instead of 9, sadly, but that's about it. That's where the differences really end. The only other real one is the grips. They did incorporate some new grip designs. Where there's actually 3 different ones. This one's the most kind of modern one with a thumb rest and some checkering. The original one was another kind of black plastic, but it was just completely smooth. And then there was also a wood one that was completely smooth as well. We also get to see the actual slide-mounted safety that the other ones would have had. So that's what it actually looks like. So this is what a civilian M70 and a civilian M57 would have had, was a slide-mounted safety like this. So this one is interesting, though. No magazine disconnect safety, though. Pull the magazine out. We've also, again, got a incorporation of a thumb rest as well. But, again, a little bit longer. One extra round capacity. This is only 8 again, so... and then, like I just said, no magazine disconnect. No magazine disconnect. Made in Serbia, so this is a post-Yugoslavia gun. This is probably a relatively new one. I would say it's in really good shape. So, but import marks, read owner's manual before use. This is probably, this gun was probably made at least in the, I would say, probably at least in the 2000s. This is a relatively newer one. So, but all M88s have a safety, to my knowledge. And these guns are actually still used to this day. And they, of course, are also, like all the others, are still produced. This one, unlike the others, is actually still in service, though, although kind of in a limited role now. But this was adopted again by like all the others was adopted by the police and military. So I got this one off of Gunbroker a couple of years ago for, I think, $199. So, and it came with an original manual and an original box. An original box and 2 additional magazines. So not a bad deal. You get kind of a commander-sized 1911 and 9mm for $199. Classic has these as well. I don't think you get any of that, but you get the gun for, I think they have them for $199 as well. So, and they're in pretty good shape as far as I can tell. So, pretty cool. Not bad. I've got a little bit of white paint. That is not original. I did not do that to the gun. That's how it came. So that's about it. None of these guns are really in full service anymore. In 1999, they would adopt Yugoslavia, and then basically at that point just Serbia and Montenegro at that point. Adopted the Easy 99. That is essentially a SIG 226 copy, a SIG P226 copy. Pretty much the same gun. So that's what Serbia uses nowadays, is that. So these have all kind of gone by the wayside, a little bit obsolete. I also forgot to mention this gun was also made in 40 Smith & Wesson as well. But you don't see any of those. I've yet to see one. So those have never been imported, I guess. So but that's about it. They're good guns. I mean, Zastava, no matter what it is, they make really good handguns. All of these guns function and shoot great. No problems whatsoever. You know, the M70 had a little bit of trouble because the first time I didn't clean it good enough, so it had some problems. But now that I finally scrubbed it, had to go back and clean it a second time all the way through. Now it works fine. But yeah, the biggest Tokarev family out there, these Zastava Tokarevs. Great guns. They're still available, and they're, as I mentioned with the prices, they are extremely cheap, and you get good quality. They're not the most modern or special handguns out there, but I'd give them, all good ratings. I'd recommend you buy them. Like I said, Classic has, I think, all 4 of them for sale, if I'm not mistaken. Classic Firearms has all 4 of them for sale. And Ames, I think, has these as well. So they're all out there. They're all available, and they're very cheap. I highly recommend you get them, or at least get some of them, whichever ones kind of pique your interest. So I like all of them. The M88 especially, I think, is a really good, concealed carry choice, honestly, I think. If I was ever going to get my concealed carry license, this would be probably one of the candidates I would pick to carry, probably. So, no magazine disconnect safety. So, well, that really about wraps it up. That's basically the history of Yugoslavia Zastava handguns, essentially, of basically the Cold War. The EZ-99 is really not part of the Cold War. I don't own one. I would like to get one of them one day. It's a real nice, cheap alternative to the P226, which is pretty neat. And I've kind of been interested in getting one. Maybe getting one in 40. I think that would be pretty neat. But that about wraps it up here. I hope you enjoyed the video. I've got more videos coming down the pipe. I've got a couple more planned, so stay tuned and on the lookout for those. I am Guns and Games, of course. Thank you for watching, and I will catch you next time.